welcome to Montreal Rocks. And today we have with us in our studio, Kerry Samuels of the band Worry. Now, if you haven't heard this band before, you will soon. They've just gone off tour. They played with July Talk on a big stage. So congratulations on that. And of course, they'll be playing at a festival here in Quebec in the next couple of weeks. So welcome, Kerry.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, you just released an album, an EP, After Something.
Yeah.
And first of all, I like to always learn about someone's origin story. To me, it's always important to know that point in your life where music took on, this new dimension. For me, it was my uncle that introduced me to, 70s and basically FM rock. And eventually I kind of graduated into more cooler stuff. But what was it for you? Was there a band or maybe a song that really triggered something in you where music went from something you heard to something you truly felt?
It's a really good question. I grew up surrounded by music. Like my dad was introducing me from like a very, very young age to as you said, FM rock and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. And like the farthest memory that I have is like riding in the back of his Mustang, just listening to like classic rock and just being so overwhelmed by it and like amazed by it. And I have a lot of really good memories of that with him. And then my mom was also showing me bands like New Order, Joy Division, The Cure. So it was like these two dynamics of music coming to like a point for me. And then I started developing a more independent taste that was inspired by my sister with like the early 2000s emo core. And then from there, I discovered like more of like the 90s, Dinosaur Jr., Sonic Youth, and like building my musical repertoire from that. And I remember there's like this one very significant moment for me. I was laying in bed in like my childhood home. I had the radio playing and like Nirvana just came on, and it was probably one of the first times that I really like listened to it. And it wasn't just like Smells Like Teen Spirit. It was from In Utero, the first song, Serve the Servants. And that song, like the dynamics of that song are so powerful, from like the guitar, the drums, just like everything about that song is so well done to me. And like that was very inspiring. And I was like, wow, I wonder if I could do that. And so I just put my mind to it. I was listening to a lot of different music that from there on out, and different like punk music and like alternative music, just like a lot of stuff. And I didn't start playing guitar until like fully playing guitar until like 2018. Like I was playing in bands prior to that, but I was always like the drummer or the bassist or what have you. So yeah.
It's interesting how Nirvana was such a launch pad for so many people to say, maybe I can do this. Maybe I have a future in this, because our journey always starts with typically our parents, or maybe for me it was an uncle, somebody in the family. And then as we go, like we discover, oh, there's a new genre here, this genre, and then it kind of narrows down, and we find the stuff that we connect with. And I think you connected definitely with the 90s, because I definitely hear that in your band Worry. It's got this 90s vibe. I Sonic Youth was really, especially the first song, 23, I got some Sonic Youth vibe, but then I'm getting some different vibes. And I asked my wife if she walked by, I go, what does this remind you of? And she couldn't pinpoint one band. It was this combination, but it was definitely an era.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's the thing. Like when I write music, I listen to something and be like, oh, I really want to write a song that kind of sounds like that, but I don't want it to sound too much like that. And then I'm just redoing something that's been done so many times. So I'm always trying to think of like, what is like a modern spin that I could put on it, or an original spin or something.
This band is still fairly in its infancy.
Yes.
You've got, not much experience with this band under your belt, but obviously getting to be on stage with July Talk, it was a big, people call it a big break. How did you feel being up there?
It's it's so funny because I dreamt and have been dreaming of playing like big shows, you know. I mean, I think it's every musician's dream to play like a real venue, they'll call them, I guess, rather than just like a dive bar or anything like that. So having that chance and the privilege to join them on stage, and like I was so nervous, I forgot to just like relax and take it all in. Like there was moments where I would take it in and just be so overwhelmed by emotion that I would just start laughing, or I don't know. But it's definitely a dream come true, and I'm really looking forward to more.
I find that there's two, I'm not a musician, so I don't know what that feeling of being on stage is like. I did DJ, and I know the feeling of having a a crowd in the palm of your hands. That I can understand, but I can't live my life in your shoes because I don't know that feeling. For some that I've talked to, a gig like that either goes extremely slow, like almost in slow motion, and they're ultra aware of everything. And for others, they completely black out. They start off and then they end, and they
Yeah,
don't remember what happened in between. But which one is it for you? It seems like the second one.
definitely blacking out. We've only played about, man, would that only be 2 shows now? Because we played the Off Festival here in Quebec City last year, and that was like our first time on the
Sure.
stage. And all I remember is getting on stage, being announced, and then getting off stage.
But
And the
that's
same
usually a
thing,
sign that you know your stuff so well that you don't have to think about it.
I guess so, right? I mean, like I said, I've played in many bands before, and I've been like, you know, I threw America on tour, through Europe and stuff like that on tour, but I always kept my kind of psyche because I was paying attention so much to what, you know, the musicians around me that were playing. I had to pick up on what they were giving me and everything, and so I had to like really make sure that I wouldn't mess it up. And like with Worry, I'm still doing that, but now it's just kind of in the back of my head. And maybe it's just because I'm at the front. Like I've never been like a very strong, like, um, you know, motivational speaker. Like during school, when I was in high school, I hated doing presentations because I didn't want that many eyes on me. And so now it's pretty like on the contrary to be front and center of the stage where literally everyone's listening to you just spill out your guts to everyone.
You find yourself more an introvert, an extrovert, or somewhere in between, like an ambivert?
Somewhere in between. It really depends on the day. Like sometimes I just don't want to go anywhere. And like, especially with this whole pandemic, we've had this like, you know, mandates to stay home and everything, that I've gotten so comfortable in doing that. So now when I go out, I'm like, oh man, there's people out here.
It's strange. I've talked to friends who are extreme extroverts,
Mhm.
and they've kind of turned into introverts, and it's because of that whole weirdness. And
Yeah.
who knows, how this will all turn out. But one thing for sure is that in terms of music, there's been a lot of creation of music, and you're quite brave to have created something kind of during this pandemic and
Yeah.
put yourself out there. And in essence, even starting to get some gigs, which is really interesting because
Yeah.
there's so few people touring right now. And for you to do this is quite something. And now you're going to be in a festival. And just for the interest of not getting flagged, uh, let's just say it's the French word for seal, and it's a mosquito spray. So that would be the festival that we're going to talk about, which is
Yeah.
actually, yes, it is kind of a play on words. It's kind of funny, as I'm half Quebecer, I'm half French, so
Mhm.
I do get the joke. But what I just found out is it was named not because of the animal, but because of the venue of the first place they had the festival. So there's a long history of why that was called that. But uh, the thing about this festival is it's going to be in a digital world, which I was just in, called Nowhere. And it's a really
Right.
interesting world if you haven't yet experienced it. How I guess it's all because of the restrictions. It's not going to be a live stream, but it's going to be pre-recorded. So you've already done basically your gig. So we're just waiting to hear from it. So how was that experience for you? Which is a
Well, we
completely new
actually,
thing.
yeah, well, we actually haven't done the the session yet. It's coming up on this Sunday for us. And I've only ever done one live recording for another band that I was playing in a few years back. And we did it was just like a live thing. And it's very interesting. It's very cool. It's a lot different than just playing, a regular set or, a venue or something, because at a venue, you just kind of accept what's going on. You're like, the only people that are going to see that, the people that were there, and whoever filmed that, 10-second clip for IG or whatever. So having this thing that is filmed and people can view it, and like will be viewing it, it's kind of intimidating in a sense, because you got to worry about like, oh, do I look good? Does it sound good? Do we perform as best we could as well? And I think the big thing for me is like, I get a lot of my energy from the audience, and from seeing people in the audience, just the reactions and everything. And so when I'm going to be on stage and the audience is a camera, it's going to be a little bit bizarre, but I think we'll do good. Like we just had practice on the weekend, my band and I felt like I really gave like everything. I came back from it. I felt like euphoric almost, because I had been just like unleashing all of these emotions I had pent up, and like, yeah, so hopefully I can capture that and we can do it again.
I mean, I believe that you're just talking about giving your all. And I think that's important as a writer and as a musician, that when you go into the writing phase, to really open yourself up. Some go to their dark place, kind of shine a light on there and become vulnerable. And somehow that connects with an audience that maybe have the same feelings, but can't put it into words. Is that a little bit how you operate, or do you create a story for a fictional character that you're trying to maybe work through your storyline with?
Yeah, that's I think for me, my writing method is like autobiographical. Like in this EP, like take Lonesome, for example, you can read like diary entries. Like I have so many books of just like writings and scribbles of just like thought processes. And I'll take words from those and be like, oh, that sounds really nice. And it's not even like I'm writing it to write a song. I'll just like reread it and be like, this is kind of embarrassing, but we can kind of turn this into more than just this embarrassing thing. Like we can turn into music here. And so that's actually where all of this started for me, was like going through something very emotional and just writing and like spilling everything onto a piece of paper, then taking that and putting it to music, or vice versa, or whatever, like, so yeah, I haven't written anything that was like a story of someone else or anything, but I think that's cool when people do that. I just haven't been able to achieve that yet.
If I was to borrow a term from the tech world, I would call your band probably WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So that is the real you. Great. What is it that you worry about?
Oh my God. What don't I worry about? I was worrying about this. I was like, oh man, I have this thing coming up today. And so I was just like playing guitar, pacing back and forth, just waiting for that clock to hit the time. I don't know. I worry about these things.
We're just two people having tea,
right?
Just chilling.
It's like anything else. Like it comes to the point, and then you're doing it and it's not so bad at all. And you're like, oh, well, what was I worrying about? So I don't know.
Isn't that a lesson in life, that most of the things that we fear or worry about end up, just going as planned? Or yeah. I remember one of my clients telling me that, 98% of the things we worry about never happen.
Yeah. That's very true.
But worrying is a big part of life. And I think if you don't worry, maybe you're living, maybe you're not living.
Yeah, honestly, that's a good way to put it. Like if you're
to take chances, you have to kind of sometimes worry about things. But I think if you live a life that's just boring, you're never going to worry about anything, but you're never also going to have those highs and the lows. Like the best part of a roller coaster is the highs and lows. It's like a heartbeat.
Exactly.
What happens when the heartbeat is just a straight line? You're dead.
You're dead. Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know. I've always been very appreciative of the lows in life, because, with every low, there's going to be a high, and it might not be this like super great high, but at least you're not super low anymore, and when I'm at my lowest, I always try to remind myself that, even though it's hard to sometimes, especially if you're really stuck in it. Like I don't know, I have like depressive episodes and like go through those times where the lows feel so low and that's all I can see. But yeah, then I get to a different level and I'm out of bed, I can go out, I can do things again, and it's kind of goes up and up and it's all good.
I think for a lot of musicians, just the process of confronting the feelings and
Yeah.
putting them out on paper and even sharing them with the world becomes a way to get out of one's head.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you connect to fans and they come up to you and say, that's how I feel too. All of a sudden you don't feel alone. You feel seen, you feel heard. I think that's very important. And
Yeah.
I think that's what you're going to keep doing. If you keep writing what you know, if you keep
Mm-hmm.
opening up your journals and sharing that with the world, then
Yeah.
how are you not going to make connections? Because you're just being yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's always been about that for me. It's never been about, achieving anything. Like I don't really care if like what happens next for us. I've always wanted to reach one or two people, like one person, and just have them feel like this was written for me. This is about my life. I like resonate. This
I love that.
resonates with me so much. And like, because I've like done that before, like when I was in a different band, kids would come up to me and be like, you're the reason why I started drumming, or you're the reason why I started playing music. And like that, I was just like, that's it. That's the reason why I'm doing this. So to continue doing that, and like, hopefully I can give, I don't know, give something like that to someone somewhere. That would be the best pat on the back for me, I guess.
Just worry about today because tomorrow will have their own worries.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to end with a little game that I like to play. It's very simple. It's called Fantasy Rock Band. I'm not a sports guy. I don't really watch that many sports. I will watch the Super Bowl, things like that. But you've heard of fantasy football, fantasy hockey. You pick the best players. In Fantasy Rock Band, you have to create the ultimate band. You need a singer, guitarist, bassist, drummer,
Yeah.
keyboardist, whatever you want. Who would you choose and why?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I'll just like combine all of my favorites. Like I really enjoy Dave Grohl playing drums in Nirvana, and I love Jay Mascis for his guitar work. So let's put them together. And then I don't know.
Who's the guitarist from?
Jay Mascis from Dinosaur Jr.
Okay.
I take a lot of inspiration from his like with solos and stuff. Like I'm like the 23 solo is kind of like, oh, that sounds like a little bit like Jay Mascis early work. Yeah, I don't know. For singing, interesting. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I'm having those experiences. Have you ever gone into a record store and you're like, try to think of the bands you like, and you
Oh
can't
yeah.
think of any of the bands that you like when you're in the record store, and then you leave and you're like, oh, I should have looked for this record. Oh, I should have bought this one. Yeah, I'm having one of those moments where I can't really think of too many artists.
Well, if you think back at the let's say the front, you're the you do the singing in the band.
Mhm.
Who inspires you the most in terms of singers? Who do you aspire to, let's say, go on stage with, whether they're alive or dead?
I've always loved what Kim Gordon is doing and has done, and what she's doing now is really cool. So I would definitely put her in there too, in the
Okay,
band.
I could see that. Now we're getting somewhere. So
Yeah.
we've got a really solid, uh, drummer. We got a solid front person with the band. We just need a bassist. That's it. We're done.
Yes. Oh man, I don't know enough bases. Yeah, I don't know enough bases to. I mean, Lou Barlow is really cool. He's from Dinosaur Jr. as well. I've always loved because he plays like chords rather than just like picking the strings and everything. So I think that's really cool. I like that.
There we go. We have our fantasy rock band.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna regret my decision and be like, I should have chose this musician instead.
Well, the reason I do this exercise is to find out who your influences are without asking the question, who are your influences? And we definitely see some Dinosaur Jr. or hear it in the music. I heard Sonic Youth, and there's so much more depth in there, but it's a combination of a lot of things. And I think that's what uh, attracted me to your band. And when I was thinking about who am I going to interview for this festival, when I heard your stuff, it kind of just brought me back to the 90s right away. And I think that's a powerful thing to do, to be able to bring someone to an era, and yet not be pigeonholed into sounding like this band or that band. So bravo to you for doing that. And I can't wait to see your performance. And you're going to be playing on the Sunday, you're saying.
Yeah. We're playing on Sunday, and then I'm not sure exactly when the event will be happening.
I will find it and I'll put it in our article.
Great. Sounds good.
All right. So thanks so much, Kerry. We enjoyed talking with you, and much success in your road to worrying less.
Thank you so much. This is a pleasure, and hope to do it again.
All right.